Okay, sensory details are also called descriptive details, and they help us to visualize the setting, characters, and events in our stories. Sensory details, the root word for this is senses, and that's relating to our five senses. Does anyone know what the five senses are?
Yes.
Okay, what are they, Anais?
Hear, touching, smell, tasting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure what the last one is.
Very good. Sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. Okay, so I'll go ahead and present this. So maybe we could see it larger. Okay, so when we are relating to the sensory details, right, we're talking about our five senses. What our characters see, what they hear, what they taste, what they smell, and what they touch. So in this slide deck, as an example, I gave you examples from stories we've already read in class. So from the story 11, we have this example. Only today, I wish I didn't have only 11 years rattling inside me like pennies in a tin Band-Aid box. I'm sure that at some point in your life, you guys have known what it is like to put rocks inside a tin can, or you have experienced putting something in a tin box and hearing it rattle around, whether it's rocks or something else. You've probably put things in a metal container before and you've shaken it up. Cisneros wants you to imagine hearing that sound while you read this excerpt from her story. Okay? This is an example of a simile, right? She's comparing the years of her life to the pennies in a Band-Aid box. Okay, here's an example from Guts. But the smell of methane was very strong, and the gray look was very bad. And as I reached for him to put him on his back, he jolted as if hit by electricity, stiffened in the kitchen chair, and fell sideways to the floor. His eyes looked into mine, directly into my eyes. Okay, so Paulson packed this excerpt with sensory details. The smell of methane. I know that living in the Inland Empire, I have in my life driven past a dairy or a bunch of cows, right? And you know that smell that is in the air when you're driving past a bunch of cows, like it smells kind of like cow poop. Well, that cow poop is methane, right? So it's making you imagine that smell. It's making you think about what it looks like to see Harvey's gray skin, okay? Or to imagine you feeling what it's like to have to move someone else's body to help them get in the right position. Okay, seeing the look that they have, like they've been zapped by electricity. All of these details help the reader imagine what's happening. Okay, we also have figurative language. Okay, so because the way you grow old is kind of like an onion, or like the rings inside a tree, or like those wooden dolls that fit one inside the next. That's what being 11 years old is like. So this is a simile. It's a comparison of two unlike things using like or as. Brian rubbed his stomach. The hunger had been there, but something else, fear, pain, had held it down. Now with the thought of the burger, the emptiness roared at him. It demanded food. It screamed for food. This is an example of personification because hunger can't roar, right? And we're giving hunger human characteristics, right? What I would like you to do for this assignment is you have this narrative that we've been writing. Okay, I'll present this really quick. You've been told 1,000 times. Sorry. Hopefully it will load. You've been told 1,000 times to never, never go into the basement. It is totally and completely off limits. But today, you're home alone. You sneak down the stairs and discover. So this is our narrative prompt. You should have last Friday turned in your completed story on this prompt. It will be a non-scorable if it's just a story about something else. Okay, in order to get credit for this class as this assignment, it has to be on this prompt. So what we're doing today is a slide deck. Here's my example. I don't know if you could see it very well, but we are going to fill out the chart below with details that you can add to your story. In the Show Me column, use either a sentence with very strong details, like the sensory details, that's what I used, or you can use an example of figurative language, like a simile, which is a comparison using like or as, or a metaphor, which is comparing without like or as. You might have heard the term hyperbole, which is an exaggeration, or personification, like what we just talked about with Brian, where you're giving something that is non-human, human characteristics. Okay, so in the Show Me, you're going to revise your writing to add more sensory details and figurative language. Right here where it says answers, you were just answering literally these questions. What sounds would your character hear? What things do your characters see? What smells and or tastes will your character experience? What textures or things do your characters touch? And what emotions do your characters feel? Okay, so you are going to tell me about what your characters can feel. Okay, you're going to talk about it using sensory details and figurative language. And I also gave you a copy of my narrative template. And you can see that now that we've written our whole story, it is time to title it. I titled my story The Bleeding Heart because my main character, Annabella, defeats the evil queen, the Red Queen, by piercing her heart with an arrow. So now you can think about the title of your story. And what I want you to do is highlight. The highlighter tool is right here on your menu bar. You're going to highlight, I used light purple number 2 right here. You're going to highlight for your sensory details and figurative language. So for example, Annabella awoke to the blaring of her alarm. That's a sound. So what I put right here in my senses for hearing, I wrote the alarm clock. That's literal, right? She woke to the blaring of her alarm. I also have an example of a school bell ringing, and I used onomatopoeia, which is when you write down the sound. So, went the blaring of the school bell that signified the transition from 3rd to 4th period. Here you're actually going to show me, okay? That's why it's called show, don't tell. You're going to show me how you revised your writing to add more sensory details. Okay, highlight those sensory details or that figurative language in purple. Right here, I used purple number 2. Okay, if you look at your assignment, you have a copy of the slide deck we just went over. You have a copy of my narrative highlights. You have your own copy of the Google slide that you need to do, and you also have an informational video. You do not have to work in the meet. You can work outside the meet, and Miss Mila and I can track you using GoGuardian.
Mrs. Cedar, if I see students in any other classes like math or science, I'm going to start closing those tabs as well.
Yes, thank you.